Hello everybody, welcome back to Art by the Lake. Today we're going to do something a little bit simple and a little bit different. We're not actually going to paint. We started messing around with resin painting, if you checked out my last video. And we did it on canvas and it worked, but canvas doesn't seem to be the best surface for resin coating. It sags in the middle. And it can cause the resin to pull away from the canvas, and these are all bad things. So I started to play around with the idea of using hardboard. Some people call it Masonite. It's called different things in different countries. You can buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's as Masonite. You can buy it pre-cut like this. This is a 16 by 20 at art supply stores. You can buy it coated or uncoated. It's about half the price if it's uncoated. And so today I'm going to show you how I coat hardboard or Masonite, and today we're going to use, I'll turn it around so it makes a little more sense to you, Liquitex Acrylic Gesso. And it really is just sort of a primer. If you think of you know, when you paint something in your house that hasn't been painted before, you use a primer. I don't want to pour directly on this tan color, and I'm also a little concerned that because of the wetness of the paint that it'll soak in. So we're going to coat this. I have a little 2-inch brush. You don't need to fuss a whole lot, except that I prefer thin coats, multiple coats, rather than one big heavy dense coat. So try to not coat it all in one shot. I have over here some 320 grit sandpaper. When this dries, I will sand it and recoat it again with another light coat until I get the surface I want. But again, don't need to be too fussy. You just blow it out there, spread it around. I'm going to hold on to it with one hand so that the hardboard doesn't move out of frame. Sometimes you can get it in as few as 1 or 2 coats, depending upon what you want and depending upon what you're going to do with it. You'll see that the gesso with the brush does leave a little bit of a texture. So if you're worried about that, that's where sanding and recoating will play into your favor. But I have found this to be the best way. Every time I try to do it in one coat, I end up with lots of ridges and lots of lines. And if you're pouring on top of this, especially if you're pouring resin on top of this, it probably doesn't matter so much. But I also paint on top of these, brush painting on top of these. So, you know, the lines can be distracting. It's probably hard to see at this point whether there are lines or not, but I can tell you that there are. And we'll break this video up into several segments that you won't notice, but this obviously has to dry before I can sand it, and so I'm not going to sit here and wait for it to dry on video. So as you can see, we're just sort of slopping it in, and when I'm done, I'll show you one of my favorite techniques or tricks or whatever you want to call it to try to get it as smooth as possible. But first you just really want to cover brown with white. Now if you wanted to, you can buy black gesso if you really were going for a black background painting. I've done that before. You can buy black gesso. You don't have to buy white and then coat it in black. I have even seen people tint white gesso with gray or black. And here's what I like to do when I'm done, is I like to go from top to bottom or side to side and just very, very lightly, so lightly I dropped it, very, very lightly drag the brush down. And in this step, some people actually switch. I'm not going to do it today, but some people will actually switch to a 4-inch or a 5-inch brush. Just so that there are fewer areas. And if you look, you can kind of see the little lines that develop. Again, some people don't mind these. depending upon what you're doing. I'm probably doing a resin pour on this one, so I'm not as concerned about the lines, but you want to watch for little things like there's a little piece of debris that just got caught up in it. Either came from the edge when they cut this board, or when I dropped my brush I picked it up. But that's really all there is to it. I have seen people then go back this way with it, and I'll do that just in a couple strokes. And sometimes that thins it out and evens it out. I'm not sure it helps, but it does minimize the lines at least going in one direction. So we'll take a break here while I let this dry. I'm going to stop the video and we'll be back in a few seconds for you. Okay everybody, we're back. So about 2 hours has passed and you can see this is mostly dry. I'm using a 320 grit, really fine paper. This is probably overkill, but you really just want to take down the ridges. I like to hit the edges a little bit because you'll see the edges get a little feathery. And you're really looking just to even it all out and not do, you know, you don't want to dig in and get down to the color of the hardboard or completely through the gesso. You really just want to take down the ridges very sort of gently, and you can run your finger across it and feel it. Then, as I mentioned before, when we reach that point, we're going to put a lighter coat this time. I'm not going to put nearly as much gesso on this time. And we're going to just, again, smooth that out. And you'll see with this go around, I'm really not trying to paint the entire canvas end to end. I'm really just trying to even it all out and get another thin coat on the canvas. And I know it's hard to see. You're looking at white on white, so it's difficult to see. But if you do this once or twice, you'll get the sense of how much to put on and how much coverage you need. And again, keep in mind, if you're brush painting this, if you're going to do a painting on top of this, you want all the lines out. You don't want any of the brush strokes to show through. You want them all out. If you're pouring resin or you're pouring paint on this, you don't need to be as fussy. You don't have to have every single line perfect because of the thickness of what you're going to pour over the top. It will cover that all up. So I know this seems oversimplified, or maybe it just seems unneeded, but I get a lot of email questions asking about the techniques we use and about the boards we use. So I thought I would do a quick, what's the best way to coat hardboard or to coat Masonite. And that's kind of what we've done here. I'm going to go across this just a couple more times just to even it all out and smooth it all out. I know you probably can see that the tackiness of the brush is making the canvas move all over the place. So just going to put a little bit more down here where I can see a little bit of the color peeking through. But this is really all there is to coating. I priced out purchasing this same exact size. This is a 16 by 20 as I mentioned, pre-coated. And I'll tell you the pricing that I found for this 16 by 20 uncoated was about $2.50 each, which I thought was really affordable. So you can buy you know, a 10 pack for 22, 23 bucks. The coated version of this, if you buy it with gesso on it, was about $4.45-50. So it's roughly double the price to have it coated. And you've seen here, really, other than the waiting around time for this to dry, there's really not a lot to it. You know, we've done this twice, literally in minutes. So it's really all there is to it. So this is the best way to coat a hardboard with gesso. If you have any questions, you can email me at artbythelake@gmail.com. If you're interested in any of our paintings, we are Art by the Lake on eBay and Etsy as well. I'll try to get back and we'll actually pour something on this, maybe a resin pour or paint pour before the holidays. We're coming down the middle of December here, so it's going to get busy, but I hope with a little time off I'll do a little more painting, so you get to see a little bit more. So thanks for tuning in today. This has been Art by the Lake, how to coat a gesso, or how to coat a hardboard with gesso. Thank you.